We come back to Anita Desai's games at Twilight. We are on page 147, and now we will be finishing. Young Ravi is hidden in a shed, thinking how it's going to be so awesome that he gets to be the great victor because all the other kids are going to get caught except for him. Then he hears the rest of the children singing and kind of chanting, and so he decides to sneak out of the shed. Off he runs, and when he gets to the den, that is to say base or whatever, he's stunned to discover that the children have kind of finished the game without him. Let's finish our story here.
Annoyed, saying, "Stop it, Ravi, don't be a baby. Have you hurt yourself?" Seeing him attended to, the children went back to clasping their hands and chanting, "The grass is green, the rose is red," but Ravi would not let them. He tore himself out of his mother's grasp and pounded across the lawn into their midst.
He's upset, right?
Charging at them with his head lowered so that they scattered in surprise. I won, he bawled, shaking his head so that the big tears flew. "Raghu didn't find me. I won. It took them a minute to grasp what he was saying, even who he was. They had quite forgotten him. Raghu had found all the others long ago. There had been a fight about who was to be it next. It had been so fierce that their mother had emerged from her bath and made them change to another game. Then they had played another and another, broken mulberries from the tree and eaten them, helped the driver wash the car when their father returned from work, helped the gardener water the beds till he roared at them and swore he would complain to their parents. The parents had come out, taken up their positions on the cane chairs. They had begun to play again, sing and chant. All this time no one had remembered Ravi. Having disappeared from the scene, he had disappeared from their minds, clean. "Don't be a fool," Raghu said roughly, pushing him aside. And even Mira said, "Stop howling, Ravi. If you want to play, you can stand at the end of the line."
148.
There very firmly. The game proceeded. Two pairs of arms reached up and met in an arc. The children trooped under it again and again in a lugubrious circle, ducking their heads and intoning, "The grass is green, the rose is red. Remember me when I am dead, 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 dead." And the arc of thin arms trembled in the twilight, and the heads were bowed so sadly, and their feet tramped to that melancholy refrain so mournfully, so helplessly, that Ravi could not bear it. He would not follow them. He would not be included in this funeral game. He had wanted victory and triumph, not a funeral. But he had been forgotten, left out, and he would not join them now. The ignominy of being forgotten, how could he face it? He felt his heart go heavy and ache inside him unbearably. He lay down full length on the damp grass, crushing his face into it, no longer crying, silenced by a terrible sense of his insignificance.
All right, let's pause for a moment. Write this down at level 2B really quickly. Anita Desai has this genius ability, as many great writers have, of saying something without saying it. Let's write that down. Saying something without saying it. What are you talking about? Well, ostensibly at level 1, this is a story of 3 parts. Let's write it down. 1, children go out to play. 2, Ravi decides to hide in a shed and he wins the game by being completely out of sight. 3, he begins to realize that the other children have finished the game and have gone on without him. He comes out of hiding. He cannot believe that they have moved on to the next game. Ironically, a game in which they chant, "The grass is green, the rose is red, remember me when I am dead, dead, dead." That is to say, the children have completely forgotten him, and the child, Ravi, has to come to terms with the fact that while he thought he was the victor in this little child's game, he actually was completely forgotten, and everybody had moved on. Even notice the parents had moved on. No one had even thought to ask, "Where's Ravi?" You can obviously jump to 3A right away, a text that a good number of you probably grew up watching Home Alone, and the idea of somehow being completely forgotten as a child and how you have to come to terms with that. But at 2A, there's some interesting stuff going on in a story like this. Namely, major messages like what? Well, the most maybe significant one is this notion of being remembered. And the idea of how you will or you will not be remembered in your life. As a child, let's say it this way, you are the center of your universe, what we call an egocentric view of the world. Everything is about you and only about you. And yet, there comes a moment, and in the sophomore year, obviously, we begin to kind of play this game more clearly. There comes a moment when you realize that on the day you showed up in middle school in 6th grade, so concerned to walk into that lunchroom with your new haircut or your new set of clothes that you were feeling awkward about, and you were so convinced that every single person in the room was looking directly at you, about to make fun of you. All of a sudden it hits you in your sophomore year, every other kid sitting in the room was completely focused on himself or herself. Nobody looked at me at all. And while there's a sense of maybe relief in that realization, there's also a sense that, oh, so I kind of live in this existence where I think I'm really important, and all of a sudden, yeah, not so much. That is to say, well, what's the point of it all? What is really victory? Our athletes, of course, have to come to this realization when they work so hard to get on one of those little cardboard cutouts placed in our trophy case, because they have ascended to the top of the hill and now they are all staters, only to realize there are a lot of cardboard cutouts from years gone by, and the athlete that just got placed in there doesn't know 99% of those faces or names. And the thought occurs, there will come a moment when nobody will remember my name either, and all of my accomplishments. Qualify the language. How do you want to write that down in 2A? We can jump to 3A really quickly and say it this way. The great Marcus Aurelius said it best in his Meditations. Soon you will have forgotten all things, and all things will have forgotten you. Whoa, 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 write that one down. Soon you will have forgotten all things, and all things will have forgotten you. Of course, think about it 2B. What is our conflict here? Clearly an internal conflict to begin with. Ravi, of course, dealing with this challenge of accepting the fact we're all soon forgotten. And no matter how important I think myself to be, lots of other people don't see me as that important at all. Life, as they say, goes on. Life moves on. Right? Of course, the resolution here is going to play the game of the penultimate theme. Notice the last line. No longer crying, Ravi, silenced by a terrible sense of his insignificance. Now, I want you to write this down. We've already mentioned a 3A. We've already mentioned Marcus Aurelius' Meditations. Marcus Aurelius, the great Roman emperor of roughly 180 Common Era. But let's also put down there a title that's coming in your senior year, and I want you to at least have some memory of it when you meet it. James Joyce wrote a very famous short story called Araby, A-R-A-B-Y. By the way, if you want, you can go and study that text in the Senior B folder on LearnStrong.net, where a young boy comes to the same realization. Thomas Hardy also provides a poem in your senior year called Are You Digging on My Grave? That's a somewhat disturbing text that teaches the exact same truth of Anita Desai's classic here. Finally, at 3B, questions. When was the last time this happened to you? When was the last time that you were absolutely convinced that you were going to be at the center of a conversation or whatever, only to discover that nobody cared at all? Absolutely at all. Of course, that famous scene for Tom Sawyer, when he imagines himself dead so that at least everyone will mourn his loss and all of that. And then he has to come to the realization that, life will move on without me. I'm not that much the center of the universe, if you will. Same game getting played all over again. When was the last time that came to you as a realization? How about this question? If it is true that soon you will have forgotten all things and all things will have forgotten you, then how do you stay motivated to live your life and do absolutely anything? What's the point? What's the point of it all? How do you find any meaning in a world, in a life, where soon you are forgotten? And to what degree can you do anything that allows you to be remembered? Well, there you go. Interesting questions. Games at Twilight. I hope you enjoyed Anita Desai's text. Thank you.